Miss Donna Beker. Hey, welcome back. And it's Miss Donna Beker from Third Eye Mystics here with us today. So excited to have you. I absolutely adore you.
Oh, thank you.
We could
I
talk
adore
about
you.
thank you. Yeah. We could talk a little bit about let's just get right into it.
Okay.
I want to know I want to talk about lots of stuff, but let's let everybody know that right up front, you and I have been together for a long time in
Mm-hmm.
our circle, in our works, and what we're doing. Um, do you
Our
remember?
paths keep crossing.
What they do, they do. Do you remember the first time we met? Do you?
Yes, actually, it was at a psychic development class, and I do believe I actually gave you a card reading or something like that, and your grandmother came through for me. And yeah, I remember saying something about your grandmother, and I was thinking to myself, well, this probably isn't the time and the place. And I thought, well, no, of course it's the time and place. You know, we're at a class. So yeah, that's kind of the first time I remember meeting you. And I just remember you really had a presence when you walked in the room, and so you caught my eye. And I think it could have been your grandmother directing me to you, but for some reason, yeah, the presence kind of caught my eye. So yeah, that had to be in 2012, 2013, maybe a little bit later. I'm not sure, but it was a while back now.
Been a long time.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Do you recall?
I think it was 2012, maybe 2011.
20. Okay, might have been
Uh,
2011. Yeah.
I think it was the fall of 2011, to be honest with you. And I remember I tend to be pretty strategic when I work with people. Um, that's the NLP, my NLP background. And so I noticed you as well as like, I definitely want to work with her. I don't want to work with this person. I don't want to, I'm telling all my secrets here. And so when you and I connected, it was absolutely perfect. So I'm so excited about that. Yeah, so I definitely noticed you and I knew I wanted to work with you. So I love that we both had that for both of us.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. And it's almost something unconscious. You know, it's not like I sat there going, oh, who should I work with? It was just kind of a natural, organic feeling.
Mhm.
And I have to say, like, even going back over my life, I've had that before. Like, it's really interesting that you mention you know, kind of get that vibe or that strategic urge to sit somewhere. And that happens to me too. I've taken courses all my life. And at one time I was taking this economics course. Oh, gag me, it was terrible. But anyway, I'm in the class and I walk in and I'm notorious for just arriving like 5 minutes just before class. So everybody's got their seats and stuff. And I kind of look around, I'm like, where am I going to sit? And I could just hear in my head where this woman said, sit by me, sit
Mhm.
by me. And I'm thinking, oh, that's weird. I think I should sit there. So I went and sat beside her. And, you know, it was fine. We just ended up, you know, doing the course together. And there was a bit of a group project where about, I guess, 2 weeks into the course where we had to meet somewhere for coffee to discuss some particular project that we were working on together. And out of the blue, now I was not a medium yet. Out of the blue, she says to me, are you intuitive? Are
Oh.
you psychic? And I said, well, yes. Like I knew I was, but you know, it was kind of an odd thing. She goes, well, I have to tell you something. You're going to think this is really weird. And I went, okay, well, try me. And she said, when you came into the room that first day, you had such an aura around you that I wanted you to sit by me. And I put in my mind to sit by me, sit by me.
Oh.
And then you did sit by me. And I put out there, who are you? Who is this person? And it came back, the protected one. So at the time when she told me this, I was a little freaked because I'm thinking protected. Like, what do I
Totally.
need protection from? You know, I was like, well, that's kind of weird. And she was a medium. Now
Oh.
that was the first medium I ever met that I wasn't actually seeking out to get a reading from. You know, and it was just somebody in the normal walk of life. And here she was taking an economics class, furthest thing from spirituality you can think of. And she was taking this class and, you know, our paths crossed like this. And it was interesting because that was the first, I had been told before from psychics, you know, oh, you should do this kind of work, but you kind of take it with a grain of salt. But this woman looked at me and said, have you ever thought about doing this kind of work? And I said, no, I don't know. I don't see how that would work for me. I don't understand what the purpose would be. You know, I see spirits, but I don't quite get the whole thing. And so then she told me a little bit about her work. She worked for the RCMP and she was a medium and all this stuff. And it's hilarious because, you know, we finished the class. That was the only time she ever mentioned it to me. And when I asked her if she would give me a reading, she flatly refused. And then I thought, oh, that's interesting. And then we never brought it up again. So here we are all these years later, and I just found her business card the other day. And I'm thinking, I've got to call her up and say, hey, guess who's a medium? Because that was like 20 years ago, right? So it's so funny that you brought up this thing about strategically sitting somewhere, because that memory just came to me now. And then I remembered, yeah, I just found her card.
Oh my God, I love that. Okay, so wow, I love synchronicity. I don't believe in coincidence. I believe everything is synchronicity, but I love the telepathic aspect. She ran with it so too, and she shared it with you. I love that. So let's get into, how did you find out? How did you know you were psychic? How psychic or medium, or like, did you know? Because honestly, I had no idea there was such thing as mediums. I knew I was psychic, but I had no clue about mediums. How about you?
Well, there was no nomenclature for it per se. Like, I didn't have a name for it. It was just when I was a little kid, I would see spirits, and you know, they quite frankly kind of freaked me out because I didn't know who they were. You know, when you're a little kid, it's not like they didn't always say to me, "Oh, this is great grandma," or whoever it was. So I would just see them, and it would kind of, you know, freak me out a little bit. I remember one time I got into this big fight on a swing with I was just losing my mind. And it's funny because I remember this bit. And my mom had said to me, what's wrong with you? What's the matter with you? I said, this kid won't let me have the swing, right? And there's no kid there. So she's like, what?
Oh.
But it was just that kind of thing where I was kind of normally playing with little kids or playmates or whatever. So just kind of like a lot of kids do, right? They have their invisible playmates and stuff. But psychically, that part of it just was a natural progression as well. Like, I would just know things, have dreams about things that were going to come true. And this runs in my family. My grandfather was psychic. He used to own or have a trap line years and years ago, like back in the 40s. And on the trap line, while he was out in the bush, he got this strong urge that he had to get home right away because one of his daughters was in dire straits for like medical reasons.
Oh, no.
So he just dropped everything. He said to his partner, I've got to get home. So he just went racing home. And of course, they were up in Peace River at the time, you know, backcountry kind of thing. And so he got home in time. Her appendix had ruptured. So it was, you know, absolute an emergency. And as a result of him listening to that, you know, he saved his own daughter's life. So those kind of feelings and organic urges, psychic premonitions, all that kind of thing has just been part of my family. So when it happened to me, when I would go to my mom and tell her stuff, she wasn't a mother who would say, oh, don't believe that. That's nonsense. You're just dreaming. She just went, okay, you know, that's fine. Because her grandfather was psychic. And my grandpa would tell her, you know, that girl's psychic. She sees things. She sees spirits. So I would hear them talk about that. But of course, at a young age, you don't really know what a psychic means. You know, you're not really sure what that involves. So it wasn't something I really even gave a thought to until I got older, like in high school and things like that. And then you're a little bit more cautious about who you tell things to and that kind of thing, because now is when you might be judged or peers might say something. But I would say it's just always organically been there. However, the mediumship part of it wasn't something I really embraced until I was older, because to me, it was like, I didn't understand what I was supposed to do with it. So what I see these spirits, I mean, I remember a lady sitting on my bed in the middle of the night. I just felt that sit. I roll over and I see this, not a pretty looking woman either, may I say.
Oh, no.
An old kind of crone looking at me with a penetrating gaze. And my first thought was, what the hell? But then I could feel this sense of peace, and it was like I knew I was okay. And I would shut my eyes and went, oh my God, you know, I'm dreaming out my eyes. She's still there. I did this a couple of times, and finally I said, I want you gone. And she was gone instantly. But the feeling she gave me was one of peace. And I realized they're really trying to push me to start waking up. And
Hold on, Doug.
After that,
How old were you there? How old were you at that?
that particular instance, I was older. That particular instance, I was already probably 45. Okay.
Yeah.
So that was the first time it really got to the point where they were like, I think in my adult life that I was really being pushed and woke up for it. My typical response to things was like, if I went to restaurants, and I worked in a hospital. So when I was in the hospital cafeteria, I often would lose my breath. I couldn't catch my breath. And I'd like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? I would have to get up and leave the area to catch my breath.
Yes.
This would happen all the time. I could be driving in a car and I'd have to pull over. I would feel something around me, but I wasn't focusing on it enough to give it the attention so I could figure out what it was. To me, it was just like, what is this? I'm feeling this energy and a sense of, I can't breathe, you know? So it's a little scary when that happens. So I went and had a bunch of tests and everything's fine. And it was later when I start to realize this is mediumship. And it was working with other mediums. You start to, listen to their experiences and you realize, what? They had that kind of feeling too? So now when I, go into a crowded place, I never have an issue, because the minute I start to feel it, I pay attention and go, where's that coming from? Oh, it's over there. They lost their dad. Oh, isn't that sad? But I won't approach them. I just need to acknowledge the spirit. Like, I know I feel you, but you're going to have to get them to come to me, because I'm not going to approach them. They might not be ready, but it's an awareness. Like, I mean, it's a matter of becoming to the point where it's like a whole world you're aware of, and that you just need to, if you want to live in society, you have to be able to also turn that awareness off. So that's something you learn, right, as you grow with this ability. But when I was a kid, probably the first time that I had a public experience would have been when I was in a school assembly. Mr. Kusi had all the kids together. He's going to give an announcement. He's our principal, and he's kind of getting set to make the announcements. And I lean over to my friend, Kim, and I say to her, oh my God, you just won an award. He's going to announce it. He's going to call your name up. And she looks at me like I'm crazy, right? But sure enough, in the next, I bet you, minute, he said, oh, and we have a surprise award today. And he calls Kim up. So as she comes back down, she just gives me a look and she goes, how did you know? And at this time I was in grade 7, I think. And I just said, oh, I don't know. It's like, I didn't really give it much pause, because it happened to me so often that I just kind of thought everybody got that feeling. Later, when I was about 15, I would get dreams all the time. But this one time I got quite a disturbing dream about my friend passing away. And it was a nightmare. So then I wake up and I went back to sleep, dreamt it again. And about a week later, yes, she did. She passed away. Now, it's funny, because you think, well, why would you see such a horrific thing in a way? But I do believe it was the spirit world just letting me know that there was an ability here that I have. And let's face it, if you have a nice, pleasant dream, you probably won't remember it. But you certainly remember the scary ones. You remember the ones that are disturbing, right? The nightmares stick with you.
Yeah.
And I will never forget that, because in the dream, it was literally like death was coming to get her, so it was a scary dream. But as I got older, I realized this wasn't a bad thing. It was just them drawing my attention to the fact that, pay attention. We're trying to communicate with you. Darn it. That's just like, So, and it's funny, because I went to three mediums finally, the third one I finally went, okay, I'll do something about it. The first time I was out in Niagara Falls, and I took my friend with me. She'd never been to psychics or mediums. I said, what? You've never been to a psychic? So we went, and we had, just walked up and down the street, found one, sat down, and the woman just looked at me and she goes, oh, spirits want to speak through you, but they won't if you're afraid. Ooh. And I went, well, I'm just going to stay afraid, because I didn't know that I wanted to have them speak through me, Yeah. Because you see the horror shows, like you're being possessed and all this kind of stuff, but it's nothing like that in reality. No. But our fear causes so much damage sometimes.
Doesn't it? Well, no, Hollywood causes the damage. Hollywood gives us a bad name too, right? So
I totally agree.
The movie Ghost, while I love Patrick Swayze and Whoopi Goldberg, great, that's not how it works. I mean, it can, On a whole different level, it can a little bit, not like that though.
Yeah, well, it's very seldom that a spirit is going to manifest in a full body form that you are going to see externally. Most times it's in your third eye, or, you know, you're seeing the spirit in your mind, or, you know, often that's how it is, or you're feeling them, or you're hearing them, or whatever. I mean, I have, like with the lady sitting on my bed, she was just as clear as you and me. I mean, I felt her sit on my bed. Uh, and let me tell you, that was, as soon as I rolled over, I knew that there was going to be a spirit there, and I knew was not of this world. Um,
but hold
she
on,
caught my attention, that's for sure.
I have no doubt. So hold on. I want to address that because, to be very honest, Donna, like you and I both seen, and they're called apparitions. And
Mm-hmm.
you and I have both seen apparitions, and it's actually a very rare thing. So full disclosure to the audience, you and I sit in a master psychic circle. And
Right.
we have for years, soul sisters for a long time. We also have a book that we wrote together. Called The Last Breath, that we advertised. Do you have it handy? Oh, there we go. Perfect. I love it. Brilliant. Perfect.
There it is.
And so, and congratulations on us both becoming international bestsellers, by the way, which is.
And I'm chapter 19 and you're chapter 20.
Yes. Yeah. Good little plug there. I like it. I like it. So you talked about third eye. So for those people that don't know what third eye is, how would you frame that to somebody that's just starting out or just listening to this audio or podcast? If they're just listening and they're just going, I don't know what these gals are doing. So third eye, how do you describe it? 2 sentences.
It's your inner thought, your inner consciousness, I would say, is the best way to put it. If you're getting into chakras, it's obviously the spot between your eyes. But when I say third eye, if I tell you to picture an apple and you picture an apple, it's kind of the same thing. You're seeing an apple in your mind. Now, if all of a sudden an orange drops into your mind, but you didn't purposely think of that, it's like, where'd that orange come from? Why am I thinking of an orange? That's how it kind of works with spirit. Spirit kind of just drops in on you. I can give you an example. One day I was going to work. I get in the car and I'm driving and you're looking at traffic and, you're not thinking of nothing else. And all of a sudden I hear, it was like a ticker tape. It comes in, Meadow was just put down. Now, Meadow is a horse that belonged to a good friend of mine who lived in Bragg Creek. And I mean, this horse, I had a connection. It tried to buck me off numerous times. I would try and ride that creature, but it was a beautiful animal. And so I hear this, that Meadow is going to be put down. And I went, like I'm talking to a person. What? That's impossible. That horse is young. Why would that happen? And then it comes back. It says, she was attacked by a wolf. Oh. She's injured. She's going to have to be put to sleep. And I went, no, that can't be. That's just crazy. Because I'm still driving to work, right? It's like I'm having this communication with this, maybe it's a guide. I wasn't sure exactly, but it was just, that's just how my mind works. Like I said, it's the orange being dropped in. It's this information being dropped into me that I didn't ask for. And so I go to work and I'm bothered. So of course, as soon as I can, I phone my friend and she was devastated because sure enough, as I was driving in, she had to put her horse down. And, they'd had the vets there and everything. He had been attacked by a wolf when he was out in the pasture. And they live up by the mountains, the Rocky Mountains. So, very feasible. And had his whole hind quarter like damaged. And it was sad, sad thing. So, I don't know if it was the fact that it was my good friend and we're so connected, or whether the horse and I had a connection, but that information was given to me. Yeah. And this is the psychic part. This is like, it's hard to explain. I don't even know. Like sometimes you just can't figure out why you get information, but you do, you know? What do you think? Do you find that too?
I couldn't agree with you more. There's times where I will be immersed in something. I'll do so for the audience. I do hypnosis for other people, and so I'll be in the middle of a hypnosis session where I should be totally paying attention, and all of a sudden I'll get this download: you need to call your mom, or you need to do this, or you need to check in at home, and I'm going, yeah, it can wait. And then what will happen is my recording of the hypnosis session or something, or the music will stop playing. Something will intervene electronically to make me have to stop what I'm doing, or I'll lose my place, or I usually do scripts online and like on my computer so I can read them, and it'll go blank. Or so I'm totally with you on that. 100%. It does just drop in, or especially driving, because it's another form of meditation for us. Really, we're paying attention, don't get me wrong.
Yes, but you're right, because you're taking that same route all the time. You're just focusing on traffic, and spirits go, okay, I got them now, because there's nothing else to distract you other than driving. And boom. And it was really like they were sitting beside me in the seat. So they were still all about the safe driving, keep your eyes on the road, but they were still telling me, downloading this information. And I must have looked like a crazy person, because I was talking out loud to them, that's crazy. That can't be. That's a good horse. That's just horses, and I was really, really upset.
Yeah.
So, and I wrote a blog about the horse and everything, so it was really interesting how that came through. And I do believe that was probably guides, to be honest. It was probably guides giving me the information. Yeah. For sure.
Okay. So that you just brought that up about blog. Well, there's so many things that you and I can talk about. I want to talk about your blog. You are actually part of a duo. So can you tell me a little bit more about Third Eye Mystics, what that looks like? Who's your other half?
Well, here's the interesting thing. Remember before when I said that our psychic ability runs in families? This includes my daughter-in-law. Now, oddly enough, my son is also very intuitive, and of course he was drawn to her. And now she's extremely talented and amazing medium. And so it was at the same time we kind of both started to divulge to each other what we saw, what we did. Like we both were it was like our paths were separate and starting to mold onto one. Okay. So we started to work together. Yeah, it merged onto one path. And so we formed Third Eye Mystics. And with that, we do, psychic development. Now, of course, we've moved online. Oddly enough, we moved all our stuff online back in December before COVID. We were thinking, we should take this online because you follow your gut, right? Mm-hmm. And so we started doing those kind of things online. We're teaching tarot, which is a big passion of mine. I love tarot. And so we teach tarot workshops. We're just right now in the process of developing a major arcana tarot workshop. So we initially have one where it's an introductory to tarot. So that kind of encompasses like all 78 cards, but that's such a large amount of information that we decided we're going to do individual workshops to focus on specific aspects of tarot, which will really help those who are like, oh my God, that's just too much information to process. And not to mention that there's just so much involved with tarot. Like you can bring astrology into it, and you can bring the Kabbalah is very involved in it, and all sorts of different information and knowledge is there. So we're working on that right now. We have a lot of irons in the fire at the moment. So yeah, we're working on all sorts of different things, and we're excited about the year to come. If you're interested, our website's www.thirdeyemystics.com, so you can see us both on there, and that's how you book readings with us too, through Third Eye Mystics. Or you can always hop on Facebook, because we have all the social media spots, Instagram and Facebook, and we're on Twitter at Third Eye Mystics. So
you're actually very active on Twitter.
Yes, I like Twitter. Twitter is, yeah.
And of course, we'll have all your links.
One thing I was going to say was about how we got our name, Third Eye Mystics.
Yeah, I want to hear about
it. We actually were working together at the same time, like separately, but together we're like, okay, we got to focus on a name, It was so crazy because we both came up with Third Eye at the same time.
No way.
I'm not even kidding you. But we couldn't think about what the last word would be. So we were thinking Third Eye Visions, and we was like, no, that's like eyeglasses, we can't do that. And we're like, well, we need something to impart what it is, so we went through the tarot and we started shuffling cards, and we drew one. We got the Magician.
Oh, perfect.
Well, another word for magician, the magicians and mystics and all those things, that's that kind of era, or that genre. And then if you really look up what a mystic is, they are on the seek of knowledge and truth, and especially the spiritual path is so important to a mystic, and it really is to us. Like this isn't just a game. It's just not just a party favor or party trick. When we're doing a reading, we take it very seriously about connecting with the loved ones, and I know you do too. Like it can be fun and it's uplifting, but it's also serious stuff because you're talking about somebody's life or somebody's loved one. So yeah.
So I want to come back.
That's how we came up with the name Mystics. It was kind of funny.
No,
we
it's
used the tarot.
I think it comes full circle using the tarot. I believe everything's divine, and so I believe that was divine as well. So, I'm gonna mention that your partner's name is Erin, and Erin's actually going to be on the podcast later on, in a couple of episodes from now. So we'll have her on as well, and she'll have her story too. She has a great story as well.
Yes, she does.
For you though, I want to talk about, there's so many things I want to talk about with you. So you and I have worked with some of the same teachers. In fact, I think we worked with all of the same teachers. How important is it to, when we first started out, and you and I were quite close together in starting out. When we first started out, you only know what you know, or you don't know what you don't know. And so, going mine, and I've talked about that quite a bit, is getting the education and learning and getting the training in the classes and having really good, strong trainers. How important is it for you to continue with the education of it? How many trainers have you had, and the caliber that you and I both have?
Right. Well, that's an interesting question, and it's very important too. Remember when I was talking about that psychic that said spirit is going to speak through you? That was kind of like the first medium that had told me something about that. The second one was in Salem. I went to a wedding in Salem, and that psychic just said, "Oh, you're a medium." And I was in a clothing store because psychics are everywhere there. And I said, "Well, no, actually I'm a large, but okay." We had a good laugh about it. He said, "No, I'm serious, you're a medium." And I said, "Well, I wasn't sure I wanted to be." And he said, "Well, you just are." So the third medium actually ended up being my teacher. So it was interesting because there was a local medium in Sherwood Park that kind of was quite well known in the vicinity. I hadn't heard of her before, but my sister-in-law called me up and said, "Hey, we have to, go get a reading." So I said, "Okay, fine." So we head out there, and on the way, I'm putting a kind of a prayer out to God. And I said, "All right, if she says I'm clairvoyant or a medium or whatever, you know what? I'm going to do something about it. I promise I'll do something about it." Because it had been during this time with all these mediums that woman had sat on my bed, and things were just getting very physical. Like it was really starting to get a lot of signs. So I said, if she says I'm clairvoyant, I'll go for it. Well, don't I sit like 2 minutes down, and she goes, "Oh my God, you're clairvoyant." She said, "You've been clairvoyant like every lifetime, and it seems like you always have to find it." And I went, "Oh, yeah." I wasn't even not surprised by it. It was like, "I know I am, yeah." And I said, "But I'm kind of afraid of it, to be honest. I'm afraid of it. I don't know. I was afraid I would be shown dark things and see, because, I had seen some, when people pass and stuff, I would see sometimes that, right?" And she said, "No, there's nothing to be afraid of. If you work with me, I'll show you how." So that's how I started. So my very first teacher was Carmel Baird. Yeah. And so I worked with her. She was, oh man, it was way back when she eventually got her own show called Mom's a Medium. But before that, we were just working in the basement of her house with 15, 20 other people. You were there. And it was really great because that was my first experience working with other people who had the same kind of stuff going on in their life as I was.
Like mine.
So the minute, I have to say this was strange, but the minute almost that I accepted that I was going to look into it, bang, it was like I was just downloaded with all this other information, and it was just, wow, the psychic stuff was just turned on, the spiritual, like the connections were turned on. So it was just needing to acknowledge that I was going to accept it, that I am a medium. It's almost all it took, because I feel like spirit's so ready to work. Like if you have an ability to be a medium or even a psychic, or, well, usually everybody's a psychic, right?
Right. Yeah.
But the mediumship, sometimes not everybody is a medium, but if you all of a sudden have that ability, the minute you accept it, it's like they're right there beside you going, let's go. Okay, we're going to work with you, Did you find that? Like the minute you're willing to accept it,
Exactly.
they're all over you.
They are. And I call it surrender. For me, it's a moment of surrender. So in my coaching company, same thing. It's I surrender. And so one of my people and we have this joke between the two of us, because she's also psychic as well. I surrender so hard. What am I missing? I'm in resistance and I don't know. I surrender, I promise. And so 100%, I couldn't agree more. And as soon as you do turn on, I want to come back just a little bit to those that are afraid of it. And so I was the same way. What if I say something bad? What if I say, I got to be honest, I was actually never technically afraid of it. The moment I knew I could do it, I did feel like a fraud. I'll be very honest about that. In the very beginning, I felt like a fraud. I thought, am I making this up? And so bless Carmel, because she was, again, one of our first ones. She gave me the permission, I guess it were, to honestly go in and say, you're not making it up. And further to that, spirit is always right. Spirit is 100% right. And so this is what I have always gotten that. I've never been scared of it. I've always been on the positivity side of everything. One of the things people say about me is that I'll brainwash you into things, spend some time with me. I'll brainwash you into thinking positively. And I'm quite proud of that, to be honest. And so same thing, I'm never going to give somebody,
good quality.
Thank you. I'm never going to give somebody a horrible reading or a negative reading or tell you you're going to die tomorrow. I don't choose to have that knowledge, and I don't want to play God, as it were.
Of course.
So same thing for you.
Right.
You and I actually had the opportunity. I want to talk about this because this is quite important as well. You and I had the opportunity to work with the police, RCMP, on cases as well. How hard was that for you? Because I know some of those, especially one of those cases, was just gut wrenching for me, and right. I actually took a step back a little bit. Still work with them, with some of my mentees a little bit, but how about you? Are you still working with the police once in a while?
Only if they call me out, or somebody calls you for help, I will do that. It's really tough because often, you have to look at it as like you're just really looking for a person, be it alive or dead, and you don't know sometimes. Well, sometimes you know that you're looking for probably a body, so that's really difficult. The hard part is you don't always know what the outcome is because they won't tell you. It's just, you'll find out if they got found, or you may find out if they found the body, but they're not going to tell you what parts of it they used of your information to further their case. The police aren't really going to do that. But I find that if the person comes to ask you to help, I do help them out the best I can. I find I don't like doing it because, of course, you see things you don't want to see because you start to you're looking for that remote viewing, and you have to be so careful to not really say, like, you should always leave open a door for hope. Mm-hmm. Because as you said, spirit's always right, but the problem is the medium sometimes isn't. That's right. Because sometimes they interpret the message wrong, or they are maybe mixing a little bit too much of their own brain in with what they're getting. They may be, because it has to filter through you. Mm-hmm. So this is where the real work, this is why mediums need to develop and need to work, because we need to make sure that we are giving the message as clear and clean as we can, the way we received it. Because oftentimes we will color it a little bit. For instance, let me give you an example. I was giving a reading sometime a while back to somebody, and I could see that his father was there because I saw a bluebird over his shoulder, and I right away knew that was somehow attached to his father. Now, I was, giving him all this information about his father, and it was all good, and he really accepted it. There was no problem with receiving it. But I realized I didn't understand the birds really, because I said, but the bird's not a real bird. I don't quite get that. I don't understand what the bird is. And he tells me afterwards that the bluebirds were actually chocolates. It wasn't really a bird. But, in my brain, if I had insisted that it was a real bluebird, it would have thrown the whole story off, because he knew what the bluebirds were referring to. But I didn't have, he was from Britain. So of course, bluebirds were not a chocolate we had here. So I wouldn't have had any reference point. because the spirits have to use our reference points, right? Like, so if you don't have that knowledge, they've got to try and find some other way to bring that to you. And this is why, too, I find, just for your viewers and your listeners out there, so often people will come in, I have a code word, you know, really, you're doing a disservice to your loved one. Because here's the thing, if I don't have, like that bluebirds, if that was the code word, well, they're just lucky that I saw a bluebird and kind of went with it. But if your code word was bluebird chocolates, or it had to be a chocolate, well, you would have lost that message, because I had given so much other evidence, not just that word, but when you give all of the other evidence to verify that you have this right person, really, you're going to be, you know, more concerned about you have to have exactly this code word. You're really doing a disservice to your loved one, because they're trying their damnedest to communicate with us. And it isn't as easy as it looks, you know. It's not like it is, you know, sometimes they make it on TV where, yeah, the person's standing in front of you and you see everything and they're talking to you just like ghost, right? But they're not. They're using, sometimes all you do is get a feeling. You just get the emotion. You get, you just kind of know how they are and how they talk and things like that. But sometimes people will come in, like one person wanted, what was it? They were wanting to hear a specific word. And I gave everything about the word, but I didn't get the actual word. And I even said to them, you know, he used to bring you eggs every day, you know, that kind of thing, but I couldn't get the word. And I think it was something, because I got it in my head, part of it, because now I'm thinking I'm looking for a word, right? Like, I don't know what the word could be. So you got to watch that, right? So sometimes too, when you're going to get a reading, stay open. Don't be concerned about just getting that one code word. Meanwhile, they've told you that, you know, your father came from England and that he used to take you tobogganing every Tuesday, and, you know, that his sister's name was Martha, or gives all this information, but you're going to discount it because, well, he didn't give you that secret word of, you know, Snoopy or something, you know.
I love that.
So.
Donna, I'm so glad you said that, because it's so true. So true. So true. Okay, we gotta keep moving along here, because you and I, girl, we could talk forever. I love this.
Yeah.
And
I digress.
Right? And we're gonna have to come back. You're gonna have to come back, because you know what, we have tons of stuff that we could talk about. We could talk all day. And I would in fact, you and I and maybe some of the our psychic circle, our master psychic circle, maybe we can have a little round table. We'll throw that out there. Maybe that would be a lot of fun, and discuss the events that we go through and stuff like that.
Right.
So Donna, we've talked a lot about a lot of different things for you. What's next for you? Like, where's your company going? Where are you going? So I know you're retired. You're retired from your professional career, which, guys, listen to this. She was actually in the science of it. Donna, can you mention quickly?
Yeah, I worked in cardiovascular research for 30 years. So yeah, it was very science, all science, really working with people that did not, a lot of them don't, you know, might be atheists or don't really have a spiritual belief. So it was really funny, because they knew I was psychic though. They kind of got a feeling, because sometimes I would just say things to them, you know, like for instance, we would have inspections. I never, ever had to worry about not having stuff ready. I'd be like, we better look at our books. I think we're getting an inspection. And we would get that inspection 2 days later, right? And they'd be like, how would you know? You know, but I would just know. Sometimes I would just say something to somebody, and they would look at me going, how did you know I just did that? Or, you know, I'd say, hey, so did you just take dancing classes? And they go, I just signed up. Like, what are you doing? You know, so things like that, they just kind of accepted it as part of who I was, right? But I didn't really tell them about the mediumship part so much until another friend of ours that we actually know, Sandra Kelly, she actually also has her own company and stuff in St. Albert there, but she works at the university as well. And it was so funny, because I saw her years before and I went, I'm going to work with that girl. Somehow I'm going to be working with her. I'm going to know her somehow. And sure enough, one day I walk into work and there she is in our meeting. I went, what the heck? And she ends up sharing an office with me. So it's so crazy how the synchronicities and the signs work. So one day she said to me, I feel like there's a spirit around you. And I looked at her and went, oh my God. is that my earring? You can see spirit? And she said, well, yeah. And I went, oh my God, okay. So now I don't have to feel crazy because I was able to kind of open up, you know, a little bit like that. So it gave me a little bit more courage to talk about it amongst my peers, right? They're science people. And it was funny because even though they wouldn't really admit outwardly that they might believe in it, they would come and ask me for readings. So it was really funny because they would come around the corner and, you know, like I was selling drugs, right? So are you doing, you know, those tarot card readings I hear? And I went, yeah, sure, come on by, you know, so it was fun. So yes, science was my big passion. And it also has a lot to do with why I question everything I do. So that's why we call ourselves evidential mediums, because we're looking for evidence. So it's not just, oh, your grandma's here, she loves you. No, it's like, well, sure, grandma probably did love you, you know? So you need something a little bit more evidence-based. It was like, oh my God, grandma was a pilot, you know, or something like specific. So, you know, yeah, grandma was a pilot. And then you go on about that, right? So yeah, that's, I love doing what I did for 30 years, but I'm really loving this next chapter. Now that I'm retired, I'm working on a book that I've been wanting to write for years. So that will be a children's, kind of a children's story, but probably more for teens, you know, young adults. And it's a story based on 3 kids growing up in the 60s in Saskatchewan. So kind of based a little bit on my life and, you know, the gifts and weird things that come up in those stories. So yeah, that's my next venture, is looking to get that published. And then of course, working with Erin, who is just so much fun to work with too. Like the two of us are having a lot of fun developing some new courses and things coming up. So some of that I can't talk about yet because we don't have enough details where I want to divulge anything yet. But yeah, just stay tuned on our page, Facebook, thirdeyemystics.com, and stay informed. Yeah, stay tuned. We got some good stuff coming.
Perfect. I love it. All right, Donna, thank you so much. You're going to have to come back on the show if you're okay with that.
Well, I can talk for hours about this stuff. You know, it's my favorite subject. So
mine too. Mine too. So I have the podcast. So thank you so much for joining us. The link will be below how to get in contact with you. Are you open to just doing a couple of readings for us?
Sure.
Awesome. I love it. Okay. So let's, so I have this VIP circle, you know, I have an inner circle that work with me. And so I would love for a couple of them to have a reading. So can we let's start with Val, if that's okay with you? Just the name. So you guys, she does not, just so you know, Donna doesn't know Val. She doesn't have a last name. She knows nothing about her. And
nope.
She's just gonna, and just like 1 or 2 sentences, you know, pinpoint maybe who she is, or
okay,
a nugget of what's to come for her, or something like that. Cool.
Okay. Well, the first thing that came to me as we're talking about Val is I get an impression of pets, or a love of pets around her, and I feel especially whether she's drawn to a dog specifically, but I feel like she either might be looking at a new pet. I almost feel like she may have lost a pet that's really been held dear to her. So I do feel a real sense of strong animals, a connection for her with animals. And of course, without getting validation, I'm just going to have to say, like, that's all I can do about that. But I just say that she's a strong personality. And I feel like that sometimes that is where that love that she would get from an animal is just like unconditional. And I feel like that sometimes that's a draw for her, or that's what she needs. So I almost feel like she should have a pet if she doesn't have one now. And all of a sudden I'm seeing a little furry cat walk by too. So it's really interesting that all of a sudden I'm seeing these pets around her. So you'll have to let me know if that makes any sense at all, but that's the first thing that came through to me for her.
I love it. I can validate that. Yes, actually. Okay. Yes, there's a couple things there, and I'll get her to validate a little bit more, so that and I'll let you know for sure. But spot on with her as well. All right, let's give her. Let's do Angel.
Angel. Okay. Now I'm getting a very whimsical person here, in a sense that I do feel like she's very creative, and I feel like that she's the type that I see as a young child, to be honest, and that. I feel like she might have wrote a lot of poetry, or wrote a lot when she was younger. I do feel like this is something that she should not leave on the back burner any longer. I feel like it's something that she should start pulling forward and really embracing these gifts that she's kind of put by the wayside. I do feel like she's had to deal with a lot of negative self-talk, and this has been put on her from past experiences, or other people that have maybe not been as supportive as they should have been for her. And I just want to say, I really feel like she's turning a corner on this. And I feel that as far as her creative abilities, it's just like the juices, I feel like they're just really getting ramped up. And I feel like she's starting to open herself to new things. And I feel that this is just the beginning. So, and I do feel like 2021, 22 is going to be a big year for her. I almost feel like there's a really big relationship thing happening there. So either she's getting married or there's some big change with the relationship there, but in a positive way. Okay. So yeah. So if she's been a little bit stagnant in the relationship area, I feel like that is definitely going to shift for her as well. So you have to let me know how that works out, because that feels like more like it's something in progress. I don't feel like she's going to see the fruits of that labor kind of thing until a little bit more like end of next year.
Okay. I actually think I know what that might be. Okay. I like it. Miss Stacy.
Stacy, let me see. Give me a second for her. Huh. Okay. So with Stacy, I get a sense of, it feels to me like she is one, seems very analytical to me. Okay. I feel like this girl is very, it almost feels like education, very book smart. It feels to me too that she's kind of buttoned down a little bit right now. So I do feel like that she's maybe needing to, she needs fun. She needs to get out and just have some joy, because I feel like she has been, of course, a lot of us are feeling this way, but clamped in. And I do feel like normally she's one who likes her feet in the mud, which is weird because right away I feel like she likes to get outdoors. And I do see her kind of on a river kayaking or something. So she may be actually going on a venture, or maybe she's just done that. But I do feel like she's going down, like, it's almost like a river thing, or canoeing or something on the river. So I do feel like that is, that's where she feels at home. It feels like she needs to get grounded or get her feet back in nature. And it's funny because I'm seeing too, it's so funny because I kind of see like the librarian, where she pulls her hair out and it's like, wow, she's going to go wild. So it feels like she's got to get into the wilderness or got to release. There's that big sense of just being restricted and being held down for too long, and not really speaking her mind. So
love this.
I don't know. This is kind of fun. I have no idea. Like, this is so off the wall, right? I have no idea, like, if I'm even close or anything about that. Because one thing with a medium, usually you'll get a little bit of validation and you'll go, yes, okay. So that keeps us on the path, right?
Yeah.
But,
no, you're doing great. You're doing great. And you're reading well. How about Lori?
Lori.
So I'll spell Lori. It's Lori. Might make a difference.
Yeah. This one, she feels like a business person to me. Okay, feels like she has her own business. Feels to me like that she's very strategic about her moves. I do feel like she's got some big decisions coming up, especially with her business. Feels like she might be branching off or possibly having either a joint venture with somebody, or so I do feel like right now she's really involved in business decisions, and feels to me that she is really looking at like possibilities of where that's going. And I do feel like she's very smart about it. Like, there's a sense of the financial side of things for this. Okay. It's like making money, and she really is concerned about the finance part of it. I do feel like she's going to make money. Okay. There's no other choice for her. It's like, it's got to make money. Okay. So there's that. And I feel like there might be some teaching aspect for her too. So I don't know if she is, starting to do some teaching or coaching or something like that, but I feel like she might have some involvement with this as well. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that might be something, I feel like there's a new revenue stream coming from something like that.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know. How about last one? I'll make you do this one. So Mary,
quite contrary. Okay. How's your garden grow? Let's see. I'm still thinking about something about Lori, to be honest. I can't get Lori out of my head for a second here. Can I just ask you something? Yeah, do you know she had her own business?
She does not have her own business that I'm aware of currently.
Okay.
but I've been of the mind. So I know each of these people very well. I've always been of the mind that she should own her own business.
Okay.
And I love that you said joint venture. So
Yeah. So then she must be helping somebody else with the business.
mhm.
Okay. And I do feel like there's a man coming in, or a man in her life. Okay. That, so he may be very much part of the business, the joint business. So she might be helping him out. Okay.
Okay,
With that.
I like that. I like that. Yeah.
All right. Now going to Maria.
Mary.
Mary. It's my writing. Cannot read my
Okay.
Okay, let's see. Mary. Now, I'm getting a sense of this person may be, would it make sense that the person's like recently quit work or finished work or might be retired? Does that make sense?
There is something with regard to work in that capacity. Yes, I understand.
Okay. Yeah, it feels to me like her work has changed. It feels to me like either she's not working as much or she's taking a step back. Okay. It kind of feels to me like she needs to put work on a side burner for a minute because it feels like she's going to be focusing on herself. There's something new
Yes.
for her.
Yes.
And it feels to me like, she's taking care of her health. It feels to me like she's been doing something that just makes her feels good. Like it's moving forward. I do feel like, let me see. I do feel like this person's a bit more reserved, okay? I do feel like that she's not as willing to let you know her thoughts or let you know her feeling. I do feel like she's a bit harder to read. She's harder to read. And I have to be honest with that because sometimes people they're just like, a little bit more resistant. It's almost like she doesn't want me to see certain things or, she's afraid of that. And so sometimes her fears will hold her back. But I do feel like that's nice that she's taking that step back and she's focusing almost more inward on family. And it does feel to me like she needs to do that. But there's a lot of joy and fun around her. Like I do feel like she has this real good sense of humor when you're with her. Do you understand that?
She does.
Yeah. And as far as information, what else can I say about her? Let me just see. Well, this is going to sound funny, but it almost feels to me like she's getting a new car.
Actually, I think there's something about that. I think I remember her talking about that.
Okay.
Funny. I know
That's so funny because I was just like, I could see Oprah going, and you get a car, and you get a car. But it was like, oh my God, she's getting a new car. So yeah, it just feels to me like and she's kind of excited about it. She does feel very meticulous to me that like, she's the type to have attention to detail, but this woman is like amazing. Please don't come to my house right now. But because it's like she would notice things and she really takes pride in her house and her home and her work. And this is somebody very ethical too. I do feel like she has an amazing story. She's somebody that you would really like to get to know her story better, but she's one who would be more concerned about what your story is. So it feels to me that when you're with her, she will not divulge. She's not going to just, tell her whole life story right away. She's very much more reserved and careful in that approach. Okay.
I would.
But a very, very giving and caring person to other people. Like she is there for you. She's one of those wonderful people that are great friends. I do feel like she's going to be doing some fundraising or some kind of work in charities. Okay, so it does feel like she's going to be asked to do that. And I do almost feel like she is sitting on a board or head of a board as well. So that might be something that's coming up for her in the future. So
good. I love it. I love it. Well, Donna, thank you so much for being on with me today and entertaining it. Again, congratulations on the book. I'm so excited for both of us.
Yay, there it is.
The
last breath.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to hearing all about yours and Erin's new courses coming out. And again, one more time, your website is
www.thirdeyemystics, don't forget the S.com. So,
and I'll have the link below. Thanks again, Donna. Take care.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you.